Riverside.
Welcome to Dance Talk with Joanne Carey, where the dance world connects, the conversations inspire, and where we are keeping them real. I'm your host, Joanne Carey, and today I am joined with Janet Eilber. She is the artistic director of the Martha Graham Dance Company, and I am honored to have her here with us today. Welcome, Janet, to Dance Talk.
Thank you, Joanne. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, I have to say again, it really is an honor to have you. I love the Martha Graham Dance Company. I love modern dance. This is a huge year or past 3 years, I think, leading up to this year, correct, for the company. So I'm excited to have you and to share you with the listeners. I'm actually starting season 4 of Dance Talk, so you'll be dropping with season 4. And I just want to get started and give our listeners a little bit of background about you and how you started with dance and then how you were brought to the Martha Graham Dance Company, if you would.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short for your listeners. It's a long time ago now, but there was a TV show called Captain Kangaroo when I was 4 or 5 years old, and there was a ballerina, the Treasure House ballerina. And I told my mother that I wanted to do that. So she took me in Detroit, the Rosemary Floyd School of Dance, and I began ballet lessons there. But really, my parents took jobs on the academic faculty of the Interlochen Arts Academy in Northern Michigan when they opened their winter program. And during my high school years there, I had 4 hours a day of modern, ballet, some jazz, improvisation, composition. It was really a formative program.
Wow.
And I went from there to the Juilliard School, where I was introduced to the Martha Graham technique. I had never studied it before. And I have to admit, I really didn't like it. My first experience with the Graham technique at 18 years old, I couldn't understand why we had to sit on the floor for the first half hour of class and why I had to memorize all these detailed exercises. I had done ballet, I had done the Limon style. I felt pretty accomplished. So I skipped my Graham classes my whole freshman year.
Isn't that something? Wow. And look at, here you are.
Also, I was in New York from Northern Michigan.
Yeah.
I had other things, Chinese food. There were other things to discover that I had never experienced. But at the end of my freshman year, I had to do my juries, the exams. And I crammed with Risa Steinberg, a wonderful dancer who went on to dance with Limon. And she taught me the exercises very quickly so I could get through my juries. And the next year, I was cast at Juilliard in Martha's Diversion of Angels. Beautiful, beautiful classic of Martha's from 1948 that's all about love. And rehearsing that work, the light bulb went off and I realized what all those exercises about, why we were sitting on the floor strengthening our torso because it was such an expressive part of the body and essential to the Graham vocabulary. And, I found this dance language that allowed me to use not only my physicality, not only my body, but my mind, my heart, my entire spirit, and who I was, not just another body making these shapes. But in the Graham style, you really have to invest the movement with your own vulnerability, your own passion, your own anger, you have to get to know yourself.
Yes.
And I found that incredibly inspiring.
Yes. Yeah. When you talk about it, it brings me right back to that. And it is, until you experience it physically actually doing it, you know, you don't completely understand it if you're just looking, like if you're just watching. But I found too, when you were talking about, once you get on the floor and you move and you get to know yourself. And that's the one thing I loved so much about dance, but so much about modern dance, at least like you, my exposure and experience with modern dance. I had to really go deep and know who I am at the core, and the vulnerability of moving through space. And it feels one way and it may look right a completely different way, which
Yeah.
is so beautiful, which and can really be beautiful. So you took me right back to that place.
I went on, while I was at Juilliard, Martha's company members taught there, Bertram Ross
Mhm.
and Ethel Winter, Helen McGehee, some of the greats of the Graham legacy. And they brought me into the Graham company while I was still a student at Juilliard.
Wow.
And Martha was very much alive at the time in 1972,
Mhm.
73. And she insisted that you invest yourself fully.
Mhm.
And she knew in a nanosecond if you were faking it,
Ah,
if
okay.
you were hiding behind the
Mhm.
movement and not really bringing your true self to
Yeah.
the movement. She could read it like a book. She would
Wow.
say, "You're hiding from me. It's meaningless. That means nothing."
Wow.
So in order to really be a partner in her artistry,
Mhm.
you couldn't hide. You had to know yourself, and you had to bring all of that
Yeah.
into the studio and then on stage.
Yes, that's amazing. I mean, and when you say it, because I didn't have the experience of being with Martha herself, but just, people who've taught the style. And when you say it, I can feel that, like, oh, how penetrating that is. If you have Martha Graham say that to you, it certainly is penetrating, but it's so true, and I imagine she meant it with love, right? I would imagine, maybe in my own romanticized mind. Let me romanticize her.
She actually was wonderful, to me.
Yeah.
To the generation before me, the women who were taking over her roles
Hmm.
for the first time, she was having to give up
That's
those
hard.
roles, creating for
Yeah.
herself. To that generation, she was not so filled with love, I have to say. But in correcting us and in demanding that we bring our full self into
Mhm.
rehearsal and into the process, that was just that was a given.
Yeah.
She just wouldn't imagine that you would want to do anything
Anything
else,
else? Wow. Yeah.
because that was so elemental to
Hmm.
herself as an artist.
Yeah.
You would be there 100%, that you would reveal yourself 100%, that it wasn't, "Oh dear, you really should do this a little more
Hmm.
deeply," or, "Oh," she would just say, "No, that's not it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're hiding. You're not doing what you should be doing."
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's okay to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Life
Yeah.
life changing. Life
Yes.
changing.
Yes.
She was insisting um, that we discover who we are and to
Hmm.
really understand.
Yes.
Sometimes you hide from yourself
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And
You know, you-
do you find you look at dancers, and when they're rehearsing in the same way, do you look with that same kind of eye?
I do. I certainly don't have the genius. I mean,
Hmm.
with Martha, it was just built in. I think she was born with this ability to read people
Hmm.
by looking at them, by
Yeah.
seeing their body language, the way they held their head, the way they walked across the room. That was her part of her genius.
Wow.
But in having directed her works for so long and learned so many life-changing lessons from
Hmm.
her, yes, I do expect our dancers to bring themselves fully
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
rehearsal or the
Yeah.
stage.
And so then when you were performing, you were at Juilliard and performing with the company at the same time. Did you did you graduate from Juilliard?
I did.
You did,
Yeah.
yes. And then did you go straight into the company? What was
Yes, I was in the company starting at the beginning of my senior year at Juilliard.
okay.
And, being in the Martha Graham Dance Company is not a full-time job.
Hmm.
At the time, it was maybe 20, 22 weeks of work.
Oh, okay.
They're not all at the same
Sure.
time. It's 4 weeks here and six
Yeah.
weeks there. So I was able to complete my work at
Oh,
Juilliard
good. Okay.
still and still dance with Martha.
Yes. And so what was it like for you to go from to then have the springboard right into a career? Did you see it that way at the time, or looking back? Tell us what that was like for you.
It just, I didn't really think about it
Hmm.
that much because it was happening to
Yeah.
me, and it was fabulous opportunities
Yeah.
that, I was in the right place at the right time. I had the most incredible teachers who encouraged me and saw my talent and
Hmm.
took me into the company. So there was never any point where I asked myself, should I really be doing this?
Yeah.
Or, it was just, uh, on a roll. I just
Yeah.
kept
Kept
following
going.
the
Yeah.
opportunities. So.
And what were some of the roles? Because I understand she created roles for you and on you. So what were some of those roles?
Oh, again, amazingly, Rudolf Nureyev came into
Mm.
our lives, wanted to work with Martha, and she created two ballets for him where I was dancing opposite him.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He was the leading man,
Hmm.
and I was the leading woman. One of the ballets was called Lucifer,
Hmm.
and she created that for Rudolph and for Margot Fontaine.
Oh,
But she choreographed Margot's role on me. I was the
oh.
one in the studio, and then
Hmm.
we taught it to Margot, and Margot only
Wow.
danced it once, and then I danced it. I continued to dance it, and then she did a ballet based on the Scarlet Letter. Rudolph did Dimsdale, and I played Hester Prynne. Um, so there were a number of ballets. She did
Mhm,
one called Frescoes, and
mhm,
I was Cleopatra
mhm.
in that one. And so it was remarkable to have her
Yeah.
draw movement out of you and talk with you about the character and what she was looking for as she would create a new ballet.
Yeah.
And quite different from when she was directing you in her classic
Mhm,
ballets. The choreography was, she had created it. She would often change it
mhm,
for me because dancing one of her roles, I was quite a bit taller.
mhm.
She was about 5 foot, 5'1",
Yeah. Oh, I
and
didn't realize she was that tiny. Yeah.
she was tiny,
Mhm,
and I was almost 5'9".
mhm,
So she would change the movement
mhm.
so that I could again be more powerful on stage. She wanted you to be as powerful on stage as possible.
Wow.
So she knew that doing movement that was made for a smaller woman
Mhm.
just didn't use all of my talent.
Yeah, and
So
that says a lot about her, I think,
yeah,
as a to really be unattached to this is the
yes,
way it is, and to want it to be the best that it could be. So
hmm,
let's change it
change it.
to
Yeah,
have that happen. I think that shows a real generosity of and a freedom
yeah.
inside to let go and to be unattached and that see I'm going to romanticize her again because as that young dancer student, she's all the way up here.
Well, it's again, it is it's it is romanticizing. It's not romanticizing her because she was
The
all about
genius.
creativity.
Yeah.
So for her to change something, that's what she lived for.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
lived for creation and revising and making something better. And,
Hmm.
so the rest of us were sort of like, oh, you really want to change that choreography in Appalachian Spring? I
Yeah.
mean, that's Appalachian
Yeah.
Spring.
Wow.
But
Wow.
she had no reservations
Yeah.
adjusting things to make them more impactful.
Yeah. And did you feel while you were learning from her and performing again, I know you said you were just doing and performing and you were living your life and as a dancer, but did you feel that you were being brought along for a certain like how sometimes you're in a company and somebody sees somebody's talent and they're bringing them along because they want to raise them up. Did you have any sense of that? Or was it just, this is me working with Martha?
Yeah. Um, Again, everything Martha did was in the service of what she was putting on the
Okay.
stage.
Okay.
So I don't, as much as you'd like to romanticize her, I don't think she took me and said, I'm going to mentor this person and make her a better artist.
Okay. That's my story.
Yeah, no, she saw something in me
Mhm.
that she knew she could put on stage and
Mhm.
it would be useful
Yeah.
to her. And I was happy to be useful to Martha Graham.
Yes. Yes.
And certainly it was such a journey of discovery.
Hmm.
Being every time you were in the studio with
Yeah.
her, it elevated you as an
Yeah.
artist.
Wow. Did you ever think about, not when you were just learning at that time, did you ever think, oh, I want to do something else, or were you being that fulfilled there at the company?
Well, because it was only 20 weeks of work or
Hmm.
so, we had to take
Hmm.
other jobs.
Yeah.
And through Martha, really, I had a number of opportunities. I mean, Halston hired me
Mm,
as a model
okay.
from time to time while he was designing
I was
costumes
just gonna
for.
say, yeah, he was just doing our costumes. Yeah.
He was great, a great friend to Martha,
Hmm.
and designed costumes for Lucifer and
Hmm.
for the Scarlet Letter and all those new ballets. I also took a job. A friend of mine was working with a small company called the American Dance Machine. This
Hmm.
is 1978. And Lee Theodore was running it, and she was reconstructing the great choreography from Broadway shows.
Mm.
And at the time, this choreography was not documented.
Hmm.
Equity and the
Right.
unions did not allow recordings of Broadway shows. So Lee Theodore was going to Agnes DeMille and to
My
Bob
goodness.
Fosse
Wow.
and to Danny Daniels and asking them to reconstruct their dances for this young company.
Hmm.
And on a break from the Graham Company, I was talked into doing a season with them down at the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. And I got to work with Agnes DeMille
Wow.
on the dances from Oklahoma
Hmm.
and from Carousel, Brigadoon.
Hmm.
And I got to work with Don Sadler on No No Nanette
Oh,
and Ron
wow.
Field, Cabaret, Bob Fosse on The Rich Kid's Rag.
Hmm.
So um, that was an amazing experience and opened all sorts of other
Hmm.
doors for me eventually when I did transition from the Graham Company to doing things on Broadway
Hmm.
and in film and television.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's what a rich, your own little pocket of dance history, right? To
Yes,
be a part
exactly.
of. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what was it like, losing Martha when that I remember myself being, and I didn't even have that connection with her, but
Mhm.
I just remember my world being like, oh no, that,
Right.
just that horrid feeling of knowing that she had passed away. What was that
Yeah.
like for you being so close to her?
Yeah. Well, by the time Martha passed away, she was almost 97
Mm,
years old.
wow.
That was 1991.
Hmm.
And by that time, I had left the company for about 10 years. I had uh, two children.
Hmm.
I was living in Los
Yeah.
Angeles. So Peggy Lyman, who was a dear friend of mine who also danced in the company, called me to tell me Martha had passed. And like you just felt you felt the world was a little bit less.
Yeah.
You felt that things were suddenly a little smaller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
She really was a pioneer, like you say, like she's so often referred to, a pioneer, and so ahead of her time, so
Absolutely.
ahead of her time. Yeah.
Revolutionary,
Yes.
and so many huge discoveries,
Hmm.
innovations. Um, it's what, as I, in my work as artistic director, I often say that, I'm sorry,
No,
just
no, it's
the central core goal or commitment of the legacy of Martha Graham is change.
mm,
It is innovation.
hmm
So I really try not to get settled in one place. I try to embrace change the
hmm
way that Martha always did.
hmm
It's difficult for her. It was just in her system.
hmm
It was in her blood and her whole psyche.
yeah.
But that's really her directive
hmm
to us now, is
yeah.
to keep thinking about the future and what should be next.
And I think that's important, to hear that, and a reminder too for myself and for people listening. When you step into the role of somebody, when you take over a company, for whatever reason that is, um, you want the company to live on and grow, but
Hmm.
to really be aware of the person, to really be aware of what she was about, and to
Hmm.
try to continue that, and then not to make it like, oh, it goes off, veers off in some crazy direction because it's not your vision, but really keeping her vision alive in new, continuous ways.
Right.
That's
That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a gift. I think that's a real gift, and I think it's a real, open, again, it's that openness, that
yeah.
artistic openness of
Hmm.
looking at, this is the company legacy I'm holding, and
Yes.
I'm responsible for that. How am I
Right.
going to? It's not about me, you know,
Mm.
but it's
Yeah.
about all of it together, all of us together, bringing it to the forefront.
Yeah.
That's Martha. Again, I'm going to romanticize her, Janet.
No, I mean, the thing is, she was all about moving into the future.
Yeah.
So I take that as a direction, that,
Hmm.
that the company now has to be all about moving into the future. And of
Yeah.
course, we dance her masterpieces,
Hmm.
her
Yes.
masterpieces of 20th century dance,
Hmm.
her classics. We dance them with authenticity,
Hmm.
and we lean on her concepts and how she directed
Yeah.
them in the past. We do all of our homework, so there's that authenticity of the works themselves. But
Hmm.
at the same time, we are constantly moving into the future,
Yes.
commissioning new works, studying how the new technology can
Yes.
influence our work, and of course, hiring today's dancers.
Yes.
They're all about the future. Their
Yes.
technique gets
Hmm.
better and better. They jump higher, they
Yes.
turn faster, their legs are
Yes.
unbelievably stretchy.
Yes.
So we have to incorporate that all into our work,
Yeah.
and not just be, an historic
Hmm.
memory of
Yes.
something in the past.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful way of saying that. So what has it been like to, be at the helm? And how did that happen? Like, how did that actually come about when you became, because you're artistic director now for 20 years, is it 20 so years?
This is my 21st
So
season. Yeah.
yeah, so how did that come about for you?
Well, it's kind of a long saga. There was, after Martha's death, there was some disagreement about who owned her works and
Oh.
who owned her name,
Hmm.
and so there were two major court cases
Oh.
to identify and secure her legacy. And eventually, the courts found that the Martha Graham Center, the Martha
Hmm.
Graham Dance Company, owned most of Martha Graham's
Hmm.
ballets and her name, And so we were able to move forward.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's a very
Yeah.
truncated version
Mm-hmm.
of that story. When the court found that we did own our the costumes and the
Mm-hmm.
sets, the archives, the board asked me to come in and organize
Oh,
all of those resources.
okay.
And so I came in to oversee the archives and organize them. And I started our licensing business,
I see.
which licenses the Graham
Mm-hmm.
ballets to schools and to other professional companies. I started something called the Reconstruction Toolkit,
Mm-hmm.
where we collect everything we know about any given ballet
Mm-hmm.
in one spot. From of course, the choreography,
Mm-hmm.
DVDs of
Mm-hmm.
multiple generations, staging maps, samples of the fabric, costumes,
Right.
designs,
Yeah.
stage manager cues, archival photos and reviews, and everything in one
Yes.
place, so that when we want to bring a dance back to the
Mm-hmm.
stage, we have all of these materials. And
Yeah.
even 100 years from now,
Yes.
someone should be able to bring these Martha Graham classics back to the
Mm-hmm.
stage the way they're meant to
Yes.
be.
Yes. Yeah.
So from there, my job as head of Martha Graham Resources, the board then consolidated the school and the center, the dance
Mm-hmm.
company and resources, and asked me to become artistic director of all the 3 sections of the Martha Graham Center.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so
And then here
yeah,
you are.
and
That,
here I am.
yeah. I just want to take a moment to talk about what you were saying about the archives and archiving and giving a complete archive of a ballet or so important. That's so important to do because we audience members don't realize, or people don't realize all the minute details that go into each dance, like you said, from stage notes to costume to all of that. So important. So and I love that stuff. Like that stuff, I'm always like, ooh, that's so interesting. I love to like see that, so to have that and that's quite a feat and quite a job to do. But it makes it, last, and then someone can do it authentically,
Yeah.
which is really beautiful. How did you decide what was going on the program these past 3 years? So it's actually this year that's the actual 100th. It's been these past 3 years leading up to it. So what was that process like? Thinking what's going to be on the program?
Well, we started thinking about this 5 or 6 years
Mhm.
ago. We knew that our 100th season would be the
Wow.
25-26 season. Our 100th birthday is April 18th,
Okay.
2026.
Mm-hmm.
On April 18th, 1926, that was the evening Martha held her first concert in New York City with a
Wow.
group of dancers.
Wow.
So supporting her. Before that, she had only given solo
Mm-hmm.
performances. And so that's the birth of the Martha Graham Dance Company.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we're the oldest dance company in the United States. And we were thinking, how can we
Yeah.
possibly celebrate the breadth and depth of this legacy
Mm-hmm.
in one season?
Yeah.
There are so many masterpieces by Martha Graham. There have been so many compositions written for her by great American
Mm-hmm.
composers. The sets by Isamu
Yeah.
Noguchi. There are just so many elements that we wanted to celebrate. And I couldn't figure out, we can only dance 3 or 4 masterpieces a year, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally said, well, wait a minute. We're going to have to celebrate for longer. We're going to celebrate for 3 years so we
Wow.
can, within those 3 years, dance many of the masterworks
That makes
and commission in each season,
Mm-hmm.
commission new works from some of today's top choreographers. We can tour to more cities in the United States,
So
to many
great.
more cities in Europe and Asia. We
Mm-hmm.
can invite other companies to dance Martha Graham works
Mm-hmm.
and many schools to dance Martha Graham works. And we also started some programs, like we have a national lesson plan
Mm.
based on a work Martha did called the American Document,
Oh.
where she took texts from important American documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, and she created a dance about American identity in 1938. And so we took this idea of
Mm-hmm.
Martha's, and we have created lesson plans around it, and we're encouraging other companies or
Yeah.
school classrooms to create their own
That's a,
American document.
that's
Yeah,
exciting. That's
this
very
is
exciting. I did
great.
not know she did that. Wow.
Yes, she did that in 1938, and it
Wow.
was an answer to the rise of fascism in Europe.
She was
And
her own little Hamilton, right?
she was,
She was her
she was her own little Hamilton, exactly.
Wow.
That we're doing something. We started a project called the Lamentation
Mm-hmm.
Variations back in 2007, where we asked choreographers to create short dances for the
Mm-hmm.
company inspired by Martha's famous solo
Oh, I think
Lamentation.
did I?
The
I
one
think I
in the
saw
tube,
that. Mm-hmm.
the one in the tube of
Yeah.
fabric,
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
famous pictures. So we started this on the anniversary of 9/11 in 2007. We showed the film of Martha, and we showed these three variations by Azure Barton,
Mm-hmm.
Richard Move, and Larry Kagwin. And it was, they were so beautiful, and they were so organically tied to Martha's legacy that we started commissioning more and more and more of them. And now for the 100th, we are inviting other companies and schools to commission Lamentation Variations and perform them. We license the film of
Mm-hmm.
Martha, and there have been, oh, I don't know how many at this point, at least 10 or 12 other organizations
That's
making Lamentation Variations.
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And now it makes me wish I still had my studio.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What an opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. Yeah.
And so the 3-year
Mm-hmm.
timeline gave us the bandwidth and the
Yeah.
time to be able to develop and be in touch with all these collaborators, and so it's so exciting. There is
Yeah.
so much going on in this, the ultimate year of our
Yeah. I
celebration.
know. I had looked at the schedule too. I had printed out the where is it? Let me see if I can find it. The whole like the performance schedule, the tour schedule itself.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like I just have to read some of the places. Northridge, California. Is it Roubaix, France? Roubaix, France?
okay.
Roubaix, France, Lyon, France, Paris, France, Athens, Greece, Michigan, Chicago, Illinois, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Gettysburg, Minneapolis, California, Sarasota, Florida, Chapel Hill. I mean, you name it. Venice, Italy, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like you're going all over, which is, I
it's
saw
and
that.
as
Exciting.
we swing into about a year from now, so the fall of
Mm-hmm.
26, we're also going to Mexico
Oh,
and to China and to, I
wow.
think, the UK. So things are,
Wow.
they continue to add to this
Very
great collection.
exciting for the company. So
Mhm.
exciting. And I read too, it was a collaboration. I don't know if it's an actual collaboration with Philandenko.
Yes, it is a
I
collaboration.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's exciting too.
Hmm.
It's a very exciting season. Again, I err on the side of Martha Graham, but it's real. Yeah, it's really so. I always I attribute my choosing to dance because of my seeing Revelations from Alvin Ailey. And then
Uh-huh.
when I started dancing, because my teacher was so Martha Graham based, I was like, oh, this is fabulous. Yeah. So
Right.
I love it. Do you want to talk a little bit about the tour that's happening?
Yeah. Well, what's happening right now in the studio as we
Mm-hmm.
get ready for the tour is one of our Graham 100 commissions.
Mm-hmm.
The choreographer, Hope Boykin,
Mm-hmm.
is in the studio. And what we haven't talked about, Joanne, is that this year, coming year 2026, is not only our 100th season, but it's the country's 250th
That's
anniversary.
wow.
Yes, and so Martha Graham is a great
Wow.
American cultural touchstone
Yeah.
genius. We're really aligned with a variety of ways of bringing attention to America 250.
That's
And
exciting.
the piece with Hope Boykin that we're rehearsing now has a new arrangement, a new score of music by Leonard Bernstein, another great iconic
Hmm.
American artist who collaborated with Martha in the 1980s, but the collaboration never came to fruition.
Okay.
But in working with the Leonard Bernstein organization, they said, we were looking in the file, and it turns out that we think Leonard Bernstein created some music for Martha that no one has ever heard.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing, right?
Wow.
They've given us permission to take that short piece of music and expand it and build a score for this new dance.
Wow.
And that's going to be premiered in Northridge, California, and it's going to be on tour with us in Ann
That's
Arbor and Chapel Hill and Gettysburg and all the places we're going.
wow. That's
Yeah.
exciting. And then how when you're building the score, does it become a recorded score or is it live? Because
Well, the premiere in Northridge will be live.
oh wow.
Yeah, with the composer
Hmm. Hmm.
Christopher Roundtree is going to be conducting the orchestra, and then they will record it the next day.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So we will have a recording so we can take it on tour, because
Hmm.
as much as we
Of
would love to
course
have
you
it,
can't. Yeah.
you can't,
You
you can't.
can't. You can't do that.
Yes.
Wow.
So
The dancers must be so excited about all this.
yeah,
It must be like a joy to be in this. I always say like it always feels good. Whatever's happening outside doesn't matter. You walk inside that dance studio and you're like, oh, life is good. But now it really must be like, oh, life is good.
we're working with Hope, and
Hmm.
today actually, before I logged on with you, we've been for the last 2.5 years been working with NYC Dance Project,
Hmm.
the two photographers, Ken Brower and Deborah Ori,
Hmm.
who do amazing dance photography. And they brought today to the studio the dancers' advance copies
Oh,
of their Graham 100 coffee table photo
oh
book.
my gosh.
The
Wow.
dancers seeing these pictures in print of themselves, of course.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous book. It's available for pre-order
Mhm.
now, and it's going to be released on October 7th.
Oh, that's exciting.
So you're right. They walk into the studio and every day is like Christmas for
Yes,
them.
I mean, that's just amazing. And I also like, I remember I think it was during COVID and a little bit coming out of COVID that, you would have the, in studio, you still have them, like you could buy tickets to be in the studio for the rehearsals. And I think
Yeah.
one of those one or several of those are coming up too. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Yes, it's called our studio series.
Hmm.
And next week we're having the opening one of this season, and
Hmm.
it's an open rehearsal with Hope Boykin.
Yeah, and I encourage listeners, to take advantage of these because, it's an intimate gathering. And from the ones I was online a couple times. I think there's the ones you had a couple time online and in
Yeah.
person. But
Mhm.
people ask questions afterwards, but you just get a sense of the works in progress, which is
Yes.
really nice because they're not quite finished yet. They're in rehearsal, but to be in a working rehearsal is always very exciting. So I encourage people to get
Yeah.
those, to take
You're
advantage of
right
that.
close. You're like 15 feet away from these
Yeah.
incredible world-class
Yes.
dancer athletes.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different experience than seeing them on stage. They're in their rehearsal clothes, they're
Yeah.
asking questions, they're trying things over and over again. It's really an extraordinary experience, and kind of, there's maybe 75 people in the room.
Yes.
It's very intimate.
Yeah. I like that. So do you go on tour with the company? So you're there for oh, that's awesome that you do that because sometimes not all artistic directors are there for the whole tour. So I think
Yeah,
that's great.
part of our thing is to give the audiences more points of access.
Hmm.
And so we have a spoken introduction to all of our
Oh,
performances.
okay.
And I do that.
Hmm.
Just come out at the top of the show and say, here's what's going to be on our program tonight, and here are a few things to look for. It's kind of like a museum's audio tour.
Mm-hmm.
And audiences really appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because, the Graham classics created 60, 70, 80 years ago, they're classics, but it's a very specific style.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Picasso. It's a very
Yes.
modernist style.
Yes.
So the audience loves knowing that there are a few things to look for.
Mm-hmm.
And what a great example of this is of the modernist work of Martha Graham. And anyway,
Yes, no,
that's, yeah,
I've been there where you've come out and have spoken a little bit, and I think it also tends to make it more intimate too. Like,
yeah,
brings, I don't know, it just kind of brings you into the space, and you can kind of
yeah.
settle into your seat a little bit more.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly right. We don't want to be intimidating.
Yes.
Some people are intimidated by modern dance.
Yeah. Yeah. They are.
I try to come out and I try in my first few sentences to have a little joke of
Hmm.
some kind, just to let people know that we
Yeah.
don't take ourselves that
Yeah.
seriously.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah, but it can be because sometimes so I remember when I took my very first modern class, or it wasn't even my first modern class. I was auditioning for different colleges, and I
Uh-huh.
was doing jazz dance at the time. Modern was kind of new to me, and they asked me to take my shoes off. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, okay, but I had to. And then once I embraced, the modern, it
Mm.
became funny to put shoes on again, right? It
Yes,
became a funny thing to
right.
do that and to be on the floor, like you were talking about earlier, dancing, starting your class on the floor. And that's another thing too, just to embrace that. But yeah, I mean, it's all so fascinating. It brings me right back, so I love it. Um, I just want to ask you, and I have a feeling, having talked to you a little bit now, what you might say, but I don't know. 20 years as an artistic director leaves a legacy of its own. Do you feel you have your legacy, or is it just really all about Martha Graham? Like, what's Janet's dream for the company, so to speak?
Yeah. I hope my legacy is that idea that we were talking
Mhm.
about, that Martha Graham was all about moving into the future.
Mhm.
And I needed to figure out for the company today, without Martha Graham, how we move into the future.
Mhm.
Because she would just create a new work. I'm
Yeah.
not a choreographer.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we really had to say, well, um, how do we commission new work? How do those new works live on the stage with the Martha Graham
Yeah.
classics? And so those are some of the big questions that in the last 20 years we have taken on, and I think successfully.
Mhm.
Curating,
Yeah.
I've considered my job to be that of a curator,
Mhm.
curating the legacy, the core collection of her
Yeah.
masterworks, and like a museum, like
Yeah.
pairing her classic works with the contemporary works,
Mhm.
maybe using themes
Mhm.
like during the 2020, when the 19th Amendment, women's right to vote,
Mhm.
had its 100th anniversary, we did a project called the Eve Project.
Oh.
And our programs featured the incredibly strong women heroines that Martha created
Mhm.
ballets about, alongside commissions from some of today's top choreographers
Mm.
who happen to be women. So
Okay.
that sort of curation
Yeah.
gives the audiences even more context. It's not just, oh, there's a piece by Martha Graham and there's a piece
Mhm.
by Hofesh Schechter.
Yeah.
They have a conversation with each other.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm really proud of,
Yeah.
having figuring out a way to move into the future, to find new
Mhm.
audiences, and keep the legacy alive.
Yes, yes. Do you have, a favorite piece? Do you have a favorite piece you danced, or just a favorite piece in general?
Yeah, I mean, they're all so
Yeah.
incredible, but I have to say we are bringing back what I think is Martha's greatest masterpiece, and that is called Night Journey.
Oh,
It is her retelling of the Oedipus story
oh,
through the eyes of his mother and wife, Jocasta.
uh-huh.
It's a complex Greek story, tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
that Martha transformed by telling it through the eyes of Jocasta. And of
Wow.
course, she made the role of Jocasta for herself.
Mm-hmm.
I got to dance that role directed by Martha Graham.
Mm-hmm.
But the work itself is such genius. It's because it's told backwards. She begins the ballet at the end of the story,
Oh,
where Jocasta is about to commit suicide because
wow.
she's learned the truth, and her life flashes before her eyes, and that's what the ballet is. The
Wow.
Jocasta's life in her memories and flashback.
Mm.
Incredible set by Osamu Noguchi. Incredible chorus of women who
Mm-hmm.
are not only the Greek chorus, but Jocasta's psyche.
Wow.
So we're dancing it at City Center in
Oh,
April. So come and see it.
very nice. Yes, yes. I mean, it's so, you talk about it, it's still, I get very excited about Martha Graham work
Right.
and about it. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to talk about or share? Because I know this is such a great, it's great celebration of her legacy.
Well, two things.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we didn't talk about is that we are moving into a new home.
Oh, yay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we are moving into the theater district, into a state-of-the-art six-studio home. Our
Wow.
offices will be there, our archives will be there, and it's under construction now. It's in the
Okay.
Paramount Building on 43rd and Broadway,
Nice.
and
Wow.
we hope to be in there for our birthday by
Oh,
April 18th. And that's many more studios than when we have now. So our
yes.
school,
It's growing.
which is limited now because
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
our space, will be able to grow as
Oh,
it's
that's
dying to.
really wonderful. When I read about the space, I wasn't sure if it meant it was for the celebration, like if it was temporary space, because you're
No,
having this. Isn't there display, like some kind of, like, not displays, but
there are
exhibits?
exhibits
Yeah,
for
going on.
100 at the New
Yeah.
York Public Library,
Okay.
out at the church in Sag Harbor, up
Okay.
at Jacob's Pillow. Yes, there are some 3 to 4 month exhibits
Okay. I wasn't
going
sure
on.
if that was part of it. Oh, so
No,
it's a
no,
brand new
this is a new
space.
building. We're moving in a 30-year lease. So
Wow, that, congratulations. That's amazing. Like, and Bethune, to know, like, think of it more. Anytime I hear Bethune Street, I always
yeah,
associate it with Martha Graham. That's the only reason I knew the street,
right. And Merce
so
Cunningham, we took over
yeah,
Merce Cunningham's space.
space.
So
Yeah.
there are a
Oh,
lot of great
sacred
dance
space,
stories.
right? Sacred space. Wow, that's very exciting. And there was something else you were gonna say.
Yes.
Yep.
The other thing is, I touched on it lightly, but our dancers are just 21st century athletes, artists. People come to our performances and just cannot believe
Yeah.
their their technical
Mhm.
ability, their expressive ability. They're great actors as well as incredible athletes,
Yeah.
and so if you, for no other reason, come to see the Martha Graham Dance Company, come to see these amazing, amazing dancers.
Yes, I agree, Janet. Oh, thank you, Janet, so much for joining me. I'm so excited for the company's celebration and for all you're doing to keep the legacy moving, which is really wonderful. And I just really I'm happy that you were able to join me on Dance Talk. And you're welcome back
Thank you.
anytime.
Thank you for highlighting Graham 100, and
Yes,
I hope you'll come and see us in person,
yes,
as well as
definitely,
with your listeners. But
definitely.
thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Janet. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. This is Dance Talk with Joanne Carey. Follow us, like us, and share, share, share. Thank you, everybody.
Powered by Riverside.